design process is to identify the major subsystems. That's what. So we have a large system to be developed. So we have to go for many subsystems interconnected. So this is the first thing you are supposed to identify in the design process. The first step here is to identify the required number of subsystems. So we can view the library system as composed of two major subsystems. So considering an example of library system, we can go for two major subsystems in the library system. So what are those? The first major subsystem is a business logic. The second one is a user interface. Coming to the first one, this part deals with the input data processing. It processes the input data. Data means about the information about the user ID, then the book ID, all that. Data creation, it will create. If you want, you can add the books, you can remove the book, you can generate the queries. If there is any notification to be given to any of the member who has not followed the deadline, queries can be generated, then data updates. So whatever the transaction take place, that information can be updated. So this module will also be responsible for interacting with external storage. So you can store the data in the external memory so that you can use it for a long time. So if storing is possible, retrieving the data is possible. So this is about the first major system, business logic in the library system. So coming to user interface, which is a second major subsystem. So here this subsystem interacts with the user. So it provides a transaction with respect to user. So what is that? How is it? It will provide accepting and outputting information. Whatever the user is requesting for, it will accept the request and process it, complete the process transaction, then gives the output information. Okay, so it is important to design the system such that the above parts are separated from each other so that they can be varied independently. So here in this example, we have two major subsystems. Depending on the requirement, depending on the system to be developed, you may have to go for n number of subsystems. So once you perform the job, you can separate them. Either you can integrate or you can separate. So if you integrate, right, second step, we create the required number of software classes. So here while creating the software classes, what is that you will do? You will go for analysis. During the analysis, after defining the use case model. First to define the use case model, then I will, according to the use case model to be developed, we check what number of classes are to be defined. So we came up with a set of conceptual classes. First class itself I discussed now in this module 2. So we are going to declare different conceptual classes, and based on that we also draw the diagram called conceptual class diagram. This is I will be discussing in the future slides for the entire systems. So define the required number of classes, write the class diagram for the given transaction, for the given application. So in this phase, there are two major activities. While defining the classes and writing the class diagram, we need to go with the two activities. What are those? The first one, come up with a set of classes. First to decide, these are the 10 classes you want, 5 classes you want, that you decide here. Next step, assign responsibility to these classes. So you have 10 classes, assign the job for class 1, class 2, class 3, so on. And determine the necessary data structures and methods. So when you provide interaction between these classes, what type of data structure you are going to use, that you define, and what method you are in developing the product, that you are going to decide in the second step. So in general, it is unlikely that we can come up with a design simply by doing these activities exactly once. Usually we write the case transaction or the use case model, whatever class diagram, sequence diagram, that we write it for one set of activities to be done. The same thing can be used for several iterations may be needed and classes may need to be added. So if this can be utilized for some of the different applications. So you can extend it. When you want to extend, you can go for more number of classes to be added. Or sometimes you will split the classes. Sometimes you remove it. Sometimes you combine it. So based on the requirement, you can do the required changes for the activities which you have already written. Find the major subsystem. Second step, we have created the classes and their relationships. Third step, we are for this example in the library. What is the next step to be done? Let us discuss. So here, before going to the next step, we have came up with a set of conceptual classes and their relationships. So in the next step, now decide what are the different classes you have come across. I have a member as one of the class, book as another class. How is the association is built? the relationship is built between these two classes. Let us discuss here with an example. Each member object comprises several attributes. Member has attributes. What are those attributes? Member should be, how you are going to identify the member, your name should be there, address should be there, phone number should be there. All these are called attributes of the member. Class name is member. The name, address and phone number are the attributes of the class member. Okay. So these information in the system is to be stored for a long period of time and performs a number of useful functions. You can perform any set of activities. Okay. So next class name is book here. So books stay part of the library over a long time. You can keep this book in a library for a long time, and we can do a number of useful actions on them. That means you can issue the book, you can collect the book back, or sometimes you can add the books or return the books. So many operations can be done with the books. So we need to instantiate books. Instantiate means you are going to generate more number of books. You are going to add the more number of books in a catalog. And members quite often, more number of members can also be added based on the requirement. The daily, if any new member wants to avail the library facility, that can be added. So clearly both are classes that require representation in software. So whatever you define now, whatever the association you build between the classes, these are to be required in the software. You have to represent these things in the software developed. That is how the relationship is built between the member and the book. Are you following, students? Shall I go to the next one? Shall we continue with the next class, library? These are the different class names. We have built up, we have defined the required number of classes and the relationships you are going to define. So under that, I have member as one of the class and book as one of the class. Now we know how to build a relationship, association between member and the book. Same way I have another class name called library. I have the next class name as borrow. I have the next class name as folds. So you already decided these are the number of classes to be used. Now what is the job to be assigned for each of these classes? Now our next task is to assign responsibility to these. Assign the job. And since the ultimate purpose of these classes is to enable the system to meet the responsibilities specified in the use case. So for this purpose, I will take a help of use case. Use case analysis we have done now. With the help of that use case analysis, we build the responsibility to each of these classes. So we shall work with the system responsibility to find the class responsibility. So if you know the system, the large system is to be developed. You know that what is the outcome of that large system. Based on the outcome, I'll divide that responsibility among these different class responsibilities. So for that, I have the next step to be done, which is that sequence diagram. So I need to draw the sequence diagram, which is easy to assign the responsibility, the system responsibility to the class responsibility. So what is the sequence diagram does? It describes the interactions among classes in terms of an exchange of messages over time. Sequence diagram what actually does, it gives the interaction. It describes, it explains what are the interactions take place between the classes. How that take place in terms of an exchange of messages over time. So you are going to exchange a message between the different classes over a period of time. So that is called as the interaction. With respect to time, so what is the information is exchanged between two classes. That is called as interaction. That is described in the form of diagram called sequence diagram.